Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Good Guys Sports 2025 March Madness Special. As you can tell, we are fully into March Madness now, and today we're going to break down the bracket and give you some picks. We're going to give you the teams we think can win it all, the teams that are going to surprise some people, and we're going to give you a couple of teams that might pull an upset as well. So today we've had a couple games tip off already. Obviously, we've had the first four happened the past couple days, and then as well as we record here on Thursday, we've got a couple games that have tipped off already. So to recap, in the first four, we had the likes of North Carolina, controversial inclusion in the tournament, beat San Diego State to advance to a 11-6 matchup against Ole Miss, and then as well we had Xavier advancing against Texas, who will be in that 11-6 matchup against Illinois in that Midwest bracket, and then as well we had a couple of 16 seeds advance on Alabama State being one of them who are currently up against it against Auburn. So probably the end to their story, but a good victory nonetheless for them. And then Mount St. Mary's taking on our local Duke Blue Devils here in Raleigh tomorrow. But I thought we'd start with just kind of an overall look at the bracket and kind of how we feel about this March Madness in particular. Obviously, our top seeds, pretty expected with Auburn being the number one overall in the South region. And then we have Duke in the East regional as well, Florida in the West, and then Houston being the top seed in the Midwest. So about what we would expect there in terms of the teams that you would think would secure that number one seed. And then the two seeds, St. John's, Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan State. So kind of competitive. I'd say, in my opinion, the toughest bracket looks to be the West, actually, with Florida, St. John's, uh, Texas Tech, and then as well Maryland, Memphis. I think that seems like a bit of a tough one there. A lot of people have Florida as their team to beat right now, but certainly lots of competitive games that we'll see going forward. But as of right now, just to update on Thursday, the only definitive games we can call right now, Creighton beat Louisville in the 8-9 matchup. Obviously, that 8-9 matchup is one that um, you would expect to see an upset. It's not really, you can debate how much of an upset it is if a nine seed beats an eight, right? So that 8-9 is kind of one that always people keep an eye on. I think the 11-6 and 10-7 as well matchups are always in that category as well. So Creighton with a big victory over Louisville in Kentucky, by the way. That game was in Lexington, so nice home state victory there for Creighton.
And yes, sorry, I'm back already. I had some little technical difficulties I had to get to, but in that Creighton Louisville game, there was a fan throwing a water bottle on the court, which is very dangerous.
No need
That
for
should
that, is
never
there?
be
Yeah.
allowed and tolerated in any tournament game or any sporting event whatsoever.
Right. And then in the East bracket, we've got Wisconsin saw off Montana in that 3-14, so about what you would expect there. Um, Houston comprehensive victory in their 116 matchup. Purdue defeating High Point. Unfortunately, the North Carolina team there couldn't get the victory there, but that's about what you would expect from the bracket as well. Currently, Clemson, we were talking about it before the show started. Clemson is up against it against McNeese. As we record, they've got a lot of work to do. They're down by 17 points, I think, or 19 points right now, maybe about 20. It looks like, yeah. So they're in a bit of a tricky spot there. So we'll see if Clemson's able to claw back anything there. Gonzaga's got a healthy lead over Georgia right now as we record. So lots of interesting matchups to look at right now, for sure. But I thought we would start with going through each of us and saying the team that we think is going to win it all, a team that we've got our eyes on that we think are going to overperform, and then a big upset pick as well that we all are picking towards March Madness. So I'll go ahead and get things kicked off with sort of a couple of predictions that I have from my bracket in particular. So the team that I think is going to win it all, unsurprisingly, would be your number one seed, Duke Blue Devils. You can say I'm a little bit biased, or I'm in the bag for the Blue Devils, but in this case, I think it is a justified pick as national champion given their pedigree so far this season. They've got the Player of the Year, Cooper Flag. They've got a deep team. They've got great veterans, great freshmen with Flag and Knipple, and just a really stacked roster, well coached from Coach Shire as well this year, I think. So previous Duke teams, possibly you could argue they were a bit overhyped in terms of, their seeding and being a Duke team, but this team in particular, I think really has the juice, and I think they're gonna go far into this tournament. So I have them as my champion. A team to look out for in my bracket. Now, usually they're a pretty high seed. This year they're not quite high, but I've got the Michigan Wolverines at a 5 seed in the South region as a team to look out for to possibly make a Final Four run. So they're a 5 seed, so not maybe a crazy upset per se, but I think in that South regional, they've got a lot of potential to come out of there. I think Auburn started off this, they're the 1 seed in that South region, and they've started off the season really well, and they've got a lot of hype around them with the likes of Johnny Broome and Bruce Pearl kind of leading that team. But I think there's a little bit of upset potential there. That game today against Alabama State, they're up by 20 right now, but the game was a little close in the first half, and I feel like Auburn is not quite as bulletproof as they were a couple of weeks ago. So I think Michigan's got a big chance to do something in that South region in particular. So they're my team to look out for a possible Final Four run in that South region. And then my big upset pick of this tournament, I probably should have picked, looking at the score right now, I should have picked McNeese over Clemson as my upset pick. I could have been celebrating during this recording as we speak, but I personally think an upset to look out for. It's not a huge upset, but I'm picking Vanderbilt over St. Mary's. Also, possibly a biased pick because I am a graduate of Vanderbilt University, but in that 10-7, I personally think they're being undervalued there a lot. And you see that 10-7 matchup a lot being the ones that you end up finding value in. I think St. Mary's are getting a bit of that, are getting a bit of uh, beneficiaries from just being a good team from the West Coast. Gonzaga, St. Mary's in that West Coast conference generally get thrown into a decent seed. I just don't really think St. Mary's are up to too much this year, and I think Vanderbilt has been pretty tried and tested in terms of the opponents they've played in the SEC. So I think that's the game to look out for in that 10-7. I've got Vanderbilt winning comfortably over St. Mary's in that East Regional first round game. That'll be tomorrow at around 3:15 p.m. tip off. So that's my pick for all you Good Guy Sports viewers and listeners. So go put a flyer on the Commodores there. But those are just a few of the games that me personally I think would be worth keeping an eye on. So
Blake,
Jackson, yeah, go ahead.
let me ask you guys a quick question. You, Mike, or Jackson might know. The number one overall seed, is there an advantage to having the number one overall versus the other three number one seeds? They get to pick which bracket they go in or which
So
division.
I believe the advantage that Auburn gets being the number one overall number one seed is that they get put in the South region. So theoretically, they don't have to travel as much, is my understanding. So I think they basically rank it where the number one, the top ranked number one seeds, we place them in the regional where they're closest, and then the same thing for like the 2 and 3 seeds. But that's a good question, to be fair. And those 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds, like, is it more beneficial to be in the region where you might have to travel less, or is it more beneficial to be in a region where you possibly like your matchups better? So it's a bit of a game of dice there that the selection committee is playing. So yeah, it's definitely a valid question.
So, Blake, one of controversy on the show. My upset pick, University of California, San Diego Tritons
Over Michigan?
over Michigan.
What a great
Oh,
name.
wow.
What a great mascot
The
name.
Tritons.
The
Wow.
Tritons.
Wow. I never even thought about it as I didn't even think of it as a potential bogey team.
They got a really good strong defense and they force a lot of turnovers.
Oh, wow.
Even though Michigan won the Big Ten and the championship, they were third in the Big Ten at the end of the regular season.
Hmm.
But I've got the Tritons going into the Sweet 16.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Mm.
So you've got them beating the winner of A&M and Yale then, I guess, right?
Yeah, and I've got Yale beating Texas A&M.
Wow. So you think we're going to get a
Mm.
round two matchup of San Diego versus Yale, huh?
Yeah. Now, because Yale is a top shooting team,
Right.
Mm.
and Texas A&M is fairly poor 3-point defender,
Hmm.
and
Mm.
they're only hitting 69% of their three free throws. Yale hits about 40% of their three-pointers.
Mm.
So if Yale gets hot, look out. The Yale may end up doing what they did last year.
That's what always happens.
Remember
One guy
last
hits
year,
10
Yale
threes.
knocked out Auburn in the first round.
Oh, we
It
remember
just
that too well.
it just
Of
takes
course,
one guy to hit 10 3-pointers and get a little hot, and that's tough for another
Mm.
team.
of course, my bracket is totally blown with
Wait, don't say it, Mike. Don't say it. Don't say it. Jackson, my upset pick of the week before Mike says anything is McNeese. I got a weird feeling that McNeese is going to beat Clemson. What do you think,
Mm.
Jackson?
Not
That's
influenced
my
by any
upset
of
pick of the week.
the current ongoings at all. Yeah. He's
Well, it could
very
happen. I
bold
mean,
prediction.
it's very, 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 yeah, that's very bold of you, Blake. But yeah,
We're actually recording on
listen,
Wednesday the 19th, so
yeah, right. Well, right. Well, yeah, it could happen, but there is still a long way to go. But it does appear to be looking that way. If only the result holds. So
and
And is it
interesting.
things are
Is
looking
it
pretty good right now.
McNeese? Did you say that right, Blake? Did I hear you right? McNeese, not
I
McNeese?
honestly don't know. I know nothing about
Where
McNeese.
is McNeese?
in Louisiana,
Okay.
Lake
Louisiana.
Charles, Louisiana.
Louisiana. And Mike, can we get a pronunciation from you? What do you think?
I would say McNeese.
Oh,
McNeese.
McNeese. I like it, guys. Okay.
You got to say it with a Cajun accent.
Yeah, is that a
McNeese.
Geaux, McNeese?
The
McNeese.
McNeese Cowboys.
Go
Mm.
Cowboys.
There's
Out
Of course,
there,
so many.
I'm not allowed to say
in the
Cowboys
bayou.
being a
Yeah,
Commanders fan.
Yeah, no, yeah. You can just
yeah,
hold that part. Interestingly
yeah.
enough, their coach actually agreed to be the new coach of the NC State Wolfpack here in Raleigh after the tournament. So apparently McNeese are a highly regarded program with their coach.
Yeah.
So maybe not as big of a shock as we thought, given the lead they have right now over the Clemson
Yeah.
Tigers. So
So
Blake, how do you go ahead,
sorry,
Mike?
I was going to say, you're talking about coaches. There's a story out about Troy's coach, Scott Cross, and one of his recruiting questions, one of his
Waffle House.
ending. Yeah. Hey, do you like Waffle House?
What a
If
great story, Mike.
if the recruitee says no or doesn't answer it in the positive, guess what? He don't play basketball at Troy.
What a great story that was. That was one of the greatest things I've ever heard. And if Waffle House isn't paired up with Troy, they're crazy now.
Yeah.
you got to get an NIL deal going there for sure.
Oh, sounds like they're making a lot of money giving out those $1 million of bucks for those student athletes who wanted to get an advertisement for that great breakfast chain
Lots of waffles, that's for sure.
of some good old Waffle House, a
Hmm.
good
I'll
old
tell you,
Southern hospitality place.
I'll tell you what, Jackson, Clemson and everybody that's watching these dogs that are competing against the bigger guys, they're putting the full court press on them, and it's working. All these dogs are so nervous. You give them space and let them kind of get in a groove. It's the worst thing that can happen. You gotta put pressure on them in an extreme way. But they might, as they say in DC, it might be a dollar short a day late with this full court press, though.
I think one of the things that's interesting is the transfer portal.
Hmm.
A lot of these smaller
Yep.
schools are getting transfers out of uh, big time programs so they can play. And so the smaller schools are getting some of these transfers, and the transfers they're getting have been playing college basketball for 2, 3, 4 years. So they're not new to the game, and it's making it interesting. Some of these mid-level teams, there's going to be a surprise.
It's almost like the Hornets had a chance to get Dalton Connect, a proven 4 or 5 year player in college, and we got somebody from France instead. And Dalton Connect is absolutely tearing it up for the Lakers. And then we try to trade and give away a lot more to get him when we could have got him in the draft. There's something to be said about proven players.
Yeah.
All I think we talked about this last week, but Auburn's average age is a year different than the average age of the youngest starting five in the NBA. So to your point, some of
Yeah.
these teams have guys that average age is well above 22 on some of these
Yeah.
college
For
basketball
sure.
teams.
Yeah, yeah. Some of these teams, like, it's a bit, a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't realize Auburn's good at basketball. Or I didn't realize Alabama's good at basketball, or like, St. John's. Like, the year-to-year turnover in college basketball with, like Mike mentioned, with NIL and transfer portal, you're able to really rebuild your team like just like that with just 1 year and getting in a mixture of experienced transfer players and maybe even like a couple of good freshmen and stuff like that. So you're able to really reinvent your team quickly. So that's probably an appealing aspect for a lot of coaches coming into college basketball, and it might turn some coaches off of college basketball because they like to have more continuity. So certainly a different sort of team building era for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Jack,
Yeah. Yes.
how far do you have St. John's going in the bracket?
Well, I'm glad you brought it up, Mike, because that was actually going to be be my pick in the West region because if you think about St. John's, you think of New York City basketball. You think of under the bright lights
Rick Pitino,
of Rick. Yes, right. Of the great. Yes, that's right, Blake. The great
dollar slice of
Rick
pizza.
Pitino, dollar slice pizza and bologna sandwich, and whenever I think of yes, I think of Rick Pitino in his fashion of the way he dressed on game days and how his players have really treat them well and yeah, yeah, you're right, Blake. I think St. John's could make a run, and I could see them advancing to at least the Sweet 16. That's how far I have them advancing.
Well,
But
that's not that far. So
yeah,
you don't have them in the Elite Eight or Final Four.
well, I have them at least advance. Well, actually, I have them advancing at least to the Elite Eight.
So
No,
who do you have coming out of the West region then?
so so I
The
have
Gators?
yes, I have Florida,
Nah,
but
boring.
yeah, well,
You know
I
who I've
know,
got?
but Norfolk State's not really that great of a team.
Well,
So
yeah, I'm not saying they're going to lose to Norfolk State. I've got the Red Raiders coming out of the West, the
do
Texas
you
Tech.
now?
I do, yes. I think they're being undervalued
Oh, are they? Well,
at the 3 seed.
I'm sure we'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out together
Mhm.
once we watch those games together with you with you and me this weekend. But but yeah, but yeah. So Florida, I find that part tricky because in their region, out in the West, is a much more difficult and tough path because they got to face the defending national champion Yukon Huskies as an eighth seed. So that part I find tricky, and they could be in trouble if they were to advance against that team of the winner of Oklahoma UConn, they would have to play um, the 4 seed Maryland Terrapins. So that part I find tricky for them. Versus for Duke on the East region, their path is a lot more easier because depending on Cooper Flag's health, of course, where we will have to watch to see if he's going to play in the first round, which I think what I think what Coach Shire should do is rest him and just let him sit out and rest him for game one and get him ready for the second round so that he can be prepared for the winner of the Duke for Duke's second round game if they if they somehow get there.
Way too
The winner of
cautious.
Mississippi State and Baylor.
You've been listening to your mother too much. I think Cooper Flag's a full go against. I don't care if it's Mount St. Mary's or if it's Gonzaga or if it's the 1999 LA Lakers. Cooper Flag is playing. This is the tournament, man. He's playing basketball, man.
You lace him
Blake.
up.
Come on.
I mean, Blake.
He's playing.
I mean, he's. But all I'm saying is that
he's a full go.
Rest him up to 100% and get him ready.
He's ready.
Hey, Jackson.
Against a very good.
He's ready to go.
Jackson.
Baylor or Mississippi State team. That's all.
Jackson, I got 2 words for you. Byron Leftwich. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy. Broke his leg in a football game. Said, I ain't coming out. I'm playing. And got his lineman to carry him to the line and threw the ball off of one leg like Mr. Miyagi. So I think Blake's right. Flags in the channel, a little Marshall Byron Leftwich, and all go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Flag's only going to be a Duke player for 1 year, and this is his opportunity to make a mark in the tournament. So he's going to be a full go. He's going to be a full go. I understand you have to give him caution and stuff like that, but everything I've seen is Flag's a full go tomorrow at 3 o'clock here in Raleigh. So expect to see him out there on the court tomorrow.
Blake, you got tickets to the game?
Not currently, but I'm gonna go check out the vibe. I think we're gonna go. I'm gonna go scope out the arena and check out the fan zone and the atmosphere and stuff around. So
you got your press pass, right?
I might. Yeah, I might. I'll print off a press pass. Good Guy Sports. I'll name check Good Guy Sports. See if that can sneak me in.
Act like you're supposed to be in there.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's right.
Friends.
Yeah,
friends of the Flag family.
Yeah, but we don't have any. Sorry, but we don't have any tickets or the budget or money to get into that game. So it's
we're gonna scope. I'll scope it out. I'll scope it out tomorrow, Jack, and we'll see.
Yeah,
Jackson. I want to know, Jackson. I would like to know what is your. So I told everybody my champion team I think is going to win it all. My team to look out for a possible Final Four run, and then my upset pick. So can you tell everybody what you have for your selections here?
Right before I do, Blake, I just want to point out that the SEC leads the way with the most teams by a single conference in this tournament, which is really exciting if you're a fan of this league, especially for fans who are a fan of the SEC. Well, they are by far the most dominant basketball conference this tournament. So that's what I find not surprising, which really is of how great and really hard to believe how many teams in that conference have gotten the tournament, which is just unbelievable to me.
I think I agree. I do think it's impressive. At the same time, though, all these conferences keep adding teams, so like mathematically speaking, they're going to have more teams make the tournament. So I will grant you that it is an impressive year for the SEC, but it is an expanded SEC as well. So possibly a slightly inflated stat line, but still an impressive stat line. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah. So that's what they did with Texas and Oklahoma. So you make a great point. So. And also the teams that are the first 4 teams that have been left out, West Virginia, sorry, yeah, we feel so bad for Uncle Rob that his team will not be dancing in the tournament. Yeah,
Boo
well,
hoo.
you feel so bad for him. You got to feel so sorry for him, for Uncle Bob, for Uncle Bob Robbie for his team. That he'll live better days and move on to baseball season. Indiana, the Hoosiers, Mike Wooden's Hoosiers, they've been in the tournament for a very long time. They don't get in it. Ohio State, Boise State, the teams that have that were left out. Now, here's what gets interesting for the last four in: Texas, Xavier, San Diego State, and of course, everybody. Of course, the hot topic that everybody was talking about on all those sports shows and talk radio, North Carolina. Everybody wondering, and us here in the media, on Good Guy Sports, which we are the media, and we want to talk about it, is how in the world did North Carolina find their way to get in the tournament without having the committee really know that how this tournament and this committee got rigged by it because of how North Carolina got in, and just really have no idea that they should be left out, that West Virginia deserves to get in. Let Uncle Rob have his moment, have have his moment, and just and just really just make him more happy so that he can cheer for his beloved team. Well, that to me is a disgrace and mistake that they should have North Carolina be left out. But as we point out, of one of the reasons why is that, and if you go back to the press conferences for what Hubert Davis says, that he just wanted blocks and shut out the noise for all the critics say on bracketology and on the CBS selection show for what those people are just saying about this UNC team not deserving to get in the tournament, which he didn't want, like Hubert Davis and RJ Davis, they don't even want any part of that. So look at what they did. They moved on from it and they beat San Diego State in the first four, and they still got in the tournament despite all that. And that's where we are now left off with. They will now face Ole Miss in the first round in the first round of this tournament.
Now,
That
Jackson, I take your point that it was definitely a controversial inclusion for UNC to make it into that
right.
11 seed first four game, but I mean, did they justify possibly their inclusion with that huge victory over San Diego State, or should we maybe hold up judgment until we see them face off against 6 seed Ole Miss, and then maybe we can make a more fair judgment? Is that fair?
That's what I'm saying. They are in the South region, so I do want to point that out. That if that looking at this matchup, which that game will be tipping off on Friday, that Ole Miss is a little bit. I do like Ole Miss winning that game. I think Ole Miss is a little bit better of a team, but UNC, they have never missed a single tournament. They are the most watched team on TV, especially when it comes to this tournament for the men. And I just don't think you can really I just don't think it's really the same without UNC in the tournament because really, unlike Duke, they are a blue blood school, and as we all know, and that's just really the beauty of it, in my opinion.
Well, I think UNC's got a hot hand. If it was not for a lane violation, they may have upset Duke in the ACC tournament.
It's true, yeah. I
Yeah.
think possibly people are I think criticizing their resume for their lack of quality wins, but at the same time they have been competitive in some of these big games, right? Like Mike mentioned, they were competitive in the last regular season game against Duke. They were competitive in the ACC tournament against Duke, and obviously they had a comprehensive victory in that first four matchup against San Diego State. So I think people were uh, and you know what? I personally, I mean, obviously, I'm a Duke fan, so I don't like UNC, but at the same time, I think it's a bit overblown some of the hate that UNC was getting. Like ultimately, like who's the 50th best team in the country, who's the 60th best team in the country. Like, I don't know. It's like we don't like, is there really that much of a difference between a UNC or a West Virginia? So I get it. It's, the UNC athletic director is like part of the selection committee and all of that sort of hijinks going on there behind the scenes. But at the same time, would not shock me at all if UNC beats Ole Miss and somehow finds a way into the Sweet 16 as well. So I think the thing about March Madness is that it's so unpredictable. Is that including one team and excluding one team, it doesn't really definitively mean anything ultimately. So like I said, I won't be shocked if UNC goes on a run here and kind of knocks off a couple wins here in the tournament. So, it's still a controversial inclusion for sure. But, Jackson, any upset picks that well, actually, well, first off, who's your champion? Who do you have winning it all?
Who do I have winning all? Okay, Final Four. So I thought about this for a second,
Naturally.
and it's tough because I can't really seem to figure out who I want to be advancing to the Final Four or the championship game.
And then you
So
got to pick
I was
somebody.
going back and forth between UConn and Florida since I've said on the show that how a tough region and bracket they are in. So
Right.
unlike Duke's path from what they have.
We'll see.
So only time will tell. You're right, Blake. But so for my Final Four bracket, I have Auburn taking on Florida. I have Duke taking on Houston.
What?
The Houston
Wait a
Cougars
minute.
will win the Midwest.
You've got
Have,
all number one seeds?
I do.
Boo. That's that's a bit boring, but I
Yeah, say all
guess
you want, but that's who I'm sticking with because
all right.
think about it. Houston,
I thought you were picking UConn.
Kevin Sampson. Well, yeah, look, yes, they're defending national championship, defending national
Three-peat?
champion.
I thought you were picking the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
three-peat.
look. That's a different sport.
You're not
But
wrong.
yeah, you're right. But in college basketball, yeah, Danny Hurley is still the best coach in the league. Yeah, they still have great players. Yeah, Husky dogs are the best dog breed out there. But at the same time,
True.
I just think that a Florida alligator will chomp and eat up a husky. That's just what my gut's telling me. So that's just how I see it. And so a tiger and against an alligator, the gator. Not sure how that's going to turn out well, but in the final four, I have Florida moving on. The Houston, um, the Cougars of Houston will win the Midwest. They will go to the final four. Kelvin Sampson and his Houston Cougars will go to the Final Four to play in their home state, 3 hours away from their campus. They will possibly, a hopes that this could be the year for them that they cut down the nets and 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 hoping and maybe it's the year that they cut down the nets and really to make it to the Final Four, but that's who my mom's picking. But for me, I have Duke beating the Houston Cougars in the Final Four, and and those Cougar fans are just going to be are going to be silent in the crowd in the Final Four. The fans are the fans are just not going to have it. They're just going to just really be stunned and quiet and just in their home state of Texas out there in the Final Four taking place in San Antonio that they will be just starstruck and just really just just really just really just really heartbroken for those fans in their state. And I have Duke moving on to the national championship. I have Florida and Duke in the national championship, and the I have our Duke Blue Devils winning it all, and they will be crowned national champions.
That a boy, that a boy. All right, so we got two Duke picks for champions right now. What about and you got any upset picks? Any bold predictions in terms of teams you think that are a lower seed that might do well this tournament?
Um, unlike Blake's pick when he picked Vanderbilt.
Hey,
Let
hey,
me
hey,
see here.
hey,
So,
hey.
right.
Relax. I'm telling you,
How
I'm guaranteeing a victory over St. Mary's
um how
tomorrow. But
about
anyway.
um how about Drake over Missouri?
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Drake because I think Drake is and I think Drake could be one of those teams that could really shock people and just really know how sneaky of a team they got because that team can really keep things close whenever they get this to a competitive game for the most part. But what I'm looking at is but what not really a lot of options for upsets besides that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's Drake versus Missouri is a
Another
good
team
upset.
that I would look at how about Utah State over UCLA?
You picked Utah State over UCLA?
Um, no, I picked Tennessee in that one, but oh, actually, I did.
Yeah,
I
that's
picked
that's not a bad
Utah
pick.
to beat UCLA.
Okay. Yeah,
I think
fair.
Utah State can be sneaky at times. They can actually
Sure, sure.
sneak up and keep things close. And maybe if it all goes well and planned, maybe they can be one of those seeds that can really shock some people in their brackets.
For sure, for sure. Okay, yeah, I like those picks. I like those picks. All right, Uncle Mike, what do you got for us? Yeah, I know you already picked. You mentioned you had San Diego over Michigan. What about your overall predictions, champion, any teams to look out for?
Okay. Well, I not to jinx them, but I have Duke winning it all.
Wow, 3 for 3.
Full flag.
Raise the
Um,
flags.
but I have St. John's winning the West.
The Johnnies.
Ah, the
Yes.
New York Minute, the New
Yeah.
York up the Manhattan, up the up in New York under the bright lights of a New York accent. Yeah, big
So I
city
have
dreams, baby.
I
Big city
have
dreams.
St. John's beating Auburn to go into the final two.
Oh,
Wow,
so you got a
wow.
St. John's versus Duke final.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that'd be a fun one.
Okay,
Yeah.
we could be looking at Northeast versus Duke, Mid Atlantic slash Carolina. So
Yeah.
that would be something.
Yeah.
Rick Pitino against John Shire. I'm going to go that far, but man, the Johnnies of St. John's. I mean, think about it, Mike. I know you mentioned about your pick, but St. John's. I mentioned it earlier on the show that they have won their conference title for the first time in 20 years, and yeah, this program and team is very special. So they got something cooking up there for those fans up in NYC under the under under the lights up there in good old Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Manhattan, and really in Upper Brooklyn, well represented for Staten Island, Jersey City, all the tri-state area, well represented for that
Yeah.
team.
And then, of course, my Midwest bracket has already been blown because Clemson is now down 12 points with about a minute to go. But moving on, uh, my other upset pick would be Drake over Missouri. And uh, that's about all I've got in play. I've got North Carolina over Ole Miss,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yale over Texas A&M,
Okay.
and my other ones that didn't pan out was VCU over BYU, but I think VCU is losing and probably won't come back.
Mm-hmm.
So do we think now, usually every so often we would see a team in the top 3 seeds, possibly even top 4 seeds getting knocked off. Mike, you mentioned Yale might knock off Texas A&M, who's a
Hmm.
4 seed. Do we see any of these potential 1, 2, 3 seeds that are left possibly being knocked off? I think Duke is a long shot. to be knocked off. Alabama versus Robert Morris, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't bet on it. Wisconsin obviously took care of business in that bracket.
Yeah.
Michigan State's playing Bryant. Probably wouldn't go against that. And then the 3-14 there's Iowa State Lipscomb. Maybe you could talk yourself into that
Yeah.
one.
I'd say Houston, um, either Tennessee or Kentucky could take them out in the Midwest.
Yeah, I think people are very, myself included, very hesitant to just pencil in Houston as an automatic Final Four slot given their recent history in the tournament, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say, yeah, I mean, well, you got Tennessee as number two and a Kentucky as a third seed. Either of those teams could very well upset Houston.
Right. Yeah. Personally, I've got Tennessee advancing out of that region
Hmm.
myself. So yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Tennessee in the Elite Eight. Uh, I think Duke is pretty safe in the East, and I think Auburn is a pretty safe bet in the South.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting to see how many of these top seeds, usually we see, like I said, usually we see a lot of these top seeds, if not get upset in the first round,
Hmm.
maybe a couple of big shockers in that second round or Sweet 16 matchup. So we got Auburn versus Creighton in that second round matchup as well. And given the way Creighton played against Louisville, I think Auburn is going to be in for a tough game in that one, to be fair. So
Hmm.
lots of interesting matchups for sure to look forward, even in that second round. Certainly later this weekend for sure. So. What about Blake Lamberg? You got any big picks? Who do you got winning it all? Who you got any making a run? Any big March Madness predictions from you, BL Lamberger?
Yeah, you're not gonna like this, Blake, but guess who I got going all the way?
Who's that?
Duke Blue Devils. I was gonna say McNeese, but I can't do it. The
You
Duke
got us
Blue
there for a
Devils,
second.
Jackson.
Four for
I
four.
Man,
What
thought
could
you
go
were. I
wrong?
thought you were going to get. I thought you were going to give us a surprise pick for a second. Ah,
well,
no.
Jackson, if you there was a viral video before this tournament of the McNeese manager. I forgot that this is the team. If you guys haven't seen, he's walking his team down the hallway. This is got viral a few weeks ago, and he's got the boom box. And they could not love this guy anymore. The teams around him, they're singing. And I was gonna pick McNeese and take them all the way, but I forgot their mascot. Mike told me a while back, and I've already forgotten it. So I'm gonna have to go with what I know, tried and
Cowboys.
true. There we go. The Louisiana Cowboys. But Jackson, I'm
Hmm.
gonna GEAUX Blue Devils. How about that?
I love it. I love it. Love the sound of that for us being fans in this family.
But
Yeah.
Jackson, watch this. Breaking news. You ready for this?
What?
This is my underdog pick of the whole tournament. You're not going to believe it. Cooper
What?
Flag Cooper Flag comes back next year. They don't make it all the way. I want them to win. Cooper Flag comes back next year. They're probably paying them in the around 8 million total. They probably will to give them 10 to 12 million next year. Watch it. Watch out. Cooper Flag comes back and plays college and makes more than he can make in the NBA. You heard it first, right here. Because he could end up with the Hornets if he doesn't, and you know how that goes, Jackson.
Well, well,
Or the Washington
I think you're
Wizards.
That
onto
would be
something,
tough.
Blake. I, I really do.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, you can't rule it out. Can't rule it out. Any teams that you like apart from Duke, Blake, for that are a lower seed, maybe to make a run here, possibly Final Four, Elite Eight.
You know, no, I'm sticking with the big dogs. I like Auburn because of the age.
Hmm.
Obviously, McNeese, it is final. They only won by 2 points, by the way. So that was an interesting finish.
So they're gonna
They
play
just
Purdue in the next round. Yeah.
the Boilermakers. No crazy upsets for me. I'm gonna stick with the top dogs for right now, at least at the top. I think it's where it gets weirder, the 14 seeds and the 13 seeds. That's where it's kind of tough to choose. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, oh my goodness. And the way it ended is Clemson scored. They're going to have to go. This could be going into overtime, guys. Clemson scored at the buzzer, and they're trying to determine if he got it off before the backboard turned red. This is going to get interesting.
Yeah, that one came down. Clemson ended up showing a bit of fight at the end here, it looks like,
It
huh?
may not be over.
Interesting. Interesting.
Hmm.
We'll keep an eye on that one as you record here. But what about Mike? Just you're in the
Mhm.
DMV. Any thoughts on the Maryland Terrapins, 4 seed in the West? Is there a lot of local buzz there for the Terrapins, or what's the vibe out there?
Yeah, I mean, they're excited. Both Maryland men's and women's team got into the tournament. The a bigger story is the George Mason women heading down to Louisiana to play their first game in the tournament. But yeah, there's a lot of excitement about the Terps coming in.
Because usually
Uh,
we'd see the Virginia Cavaliers would be obviously a big team in the
yeah,
DMV making a run, but a bit of an off year for them. So Maryland trying to pick up the slack there, I guess, huh?
yeah, yeah. So, go good luck to the Terps.
Dirty Terps.
And I think McNeese just went final as well. They upset win over the Tigers. So
Upset. Yeah.
all you
Well, the
uh
first big upset.
all you McNeese betters go cash your slips there on your upset wins there. But um other games I've got to keep an eye on, Jack. I just got to mention, even though
Yes.
I have Texas Tech going to the Final Four, so I'm not picking them against the Seahawks. But I wanted to mention UNC Wilmington. Obviously, we're in North Carolina. Our sister is a graduate, and we're obviously big Seahawks fans. So shout out to the Seahawks. I'll be cheering for them, not picking them on paper, but I will be rooting for them in spirit as they take on Texas Tech tonight. Um, Elsewhere in the state of North Carolina, obviously we have UNC and Duke still alive. My undergraduate alma mater, Vanderbilt, as well. I've mentioned personally, I've got them making a nice run here. I've got them beating St. Mary's and also beating Alabama, just because I don't like Alabama that much. So I've always picked Vanderbilt to be Alabama. Vanderbilt always loses to Alabama in football, so I think this is a good
It's only
opportunity.
fair.
This is a good opportunity to get one over on them, even though they've probably got a much better team on paper. But so
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
some interesting matchup potentials there for sure.
Yeah. 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 So also I want to mention that SEC, the most dominant conference of
Here we go.
college
This guy's getting
basketball,
paid by the SEC.
like I said, because
How much is Greg
if
Sankey
you are
paying
a
you?
fan of the SEC, which our family is not, but for people that are,
Yeah, I think
they
we're
should be
we're
they should be
decent
really
SEC
they should
fans,
be
I'd say.
really they should be really excited that your conference is in the tournament. That's really all I want to say. Followed by the Big Ten, Big 12 with 8 and 7, Big East with the lowest at 5, and the ACC 4. Now we're down to 3. The so the conference for that league is shrinking. So that's where things are. Now, let me share who I have for my picks in the Final Four for the women's bracket. I have UCLA taking on UConn. UCLA will beat UConn. They'll play in the championship game. I have defending national champions South Carolina taking on Texas. They are going to beat Texas, and they are going to meet UCLA in the Final Four. And South Carolina will beat the UCLA Bruins, and the South Carolina Gamecocks will win back-to-back national champions. And Don Staley will win another national championship and title in her resume, and she will have a Hall of Fame career for being one of the schools in women's history to win multiple national titles since Pat Summitt and James Sizik did it at Tennessee and UConn. She'll be on that list, and South Carolina will win back-to-back national titles, and Don Staley will win another championship in her legacy.
Certainly wouldn't bet against the South Carolina Gamecocks on the women's side at this point, would you? So
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
it's a competitive field though in the women's bracket for sure. So they're gonna have their work cut out for them. But yeah, certainly some interesting matchups on the
So
women's
how
side.
far, Jack, do you have LSU going into the women's bracket?
I have them advancing to at least the Elite Eight. Um, I have them losing to UCLA in the Elite Eight. So I have them at
Okay.
least. I have them at least making that far for them.
What about USC, University of Southern California?
I
USC.
think they're my favorite, honestly, at this point with Juju
Yeah.
Watkins.
Yeah. I have them advancing to. I have them losing. Yeah, I have them losing to. Yeah, I have them losing to UConn in the Elite Eight
Okay.
in my bracket.
Interesting.
But USC could end up playing USC.
Well, I mean,
How about that?
that would be pretty weird, wouldn't
The
it?
winner gets to call themselves the real USC.
You'll see. Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
it might come down to that. You never know. That's all I'm saying.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You know, a couple games. Actually, the Vanderbilt Commodores are playing tomorrow at Cameron Indoor in the winner of the Vanderbilt Oregon game will play the if Duke beats Lehigh in their game there at Cameron, the women's team. So Duke women's team is a 2 seed in that Birmingham regional as well, same regional as South Carolina. So we could possibly see a South Carolina Duke Elite Eight matchup if all the favorites end up winning, and then as well here locally, NC State, a 2 seed in that Spokane regional. So a couple teams in the triangle as well to keep an eye out. North Carolina is also a 3 seed in that Birmingham, the same regional as South Carolina and Duke as well. So could see some big matchups there on the women's side as well here locally. So definitely something to keep an eye on for sure.
Blake Lumberger, are there any surprise picks or more importantly, who do you have winning it all in the women's Final Four national championship? And when your surprise picks, who do you got, Blake?
Jackson, you know, back to the been there, done that. South Carolina, Dawn Staley, man. Listen, we got to have something to be proud of down there. Football team's getting better. Basketball team was good for us a little while, but Dawn Staley, man, I mean, she's just absolutely crushing it at women's basketball. She's the new Pat. She's the new Pat Summitt.
Uh, I agree. That's what I was saying, Blake. He's right. She's right up there along with Gene Stizik of UConn. So yeah, she's right up there, and yeah, I totally agree with you, Blake.
Absolutely, absolutely. Should be a very entertaining March all around for sure, for sure. Any other March Madness thoughts anybody has overall, men's, women's side? Any interesting matchups, teams to look out for that we haven't covered already? I think we've done a pretty extensive coverage at this point.
Well, actually, I just know that. Well, I just don't know if Mike or Blake just want to. We're going to jump in on this, but I just think that to me, it's so great to have the tournament back. I mean, March Madness, the tournament, there's nothing like it, and that's why they call Madness, and the tournament just makes it very special, and for the fans, and for people who love the sport of college basketball, of how it's their Super Bowl, they're passionate, and how those fans really how just really love making big TV money and advertisements and all that stuff, and how they really how it's really all about the money when they pay for all this events for all that takes place for all the tournament games, and how they put on a great show for those average college basketball fans who are a sport of this game. There's there's no, you can't really say it or put it in the words or just really anything like it. There's there's something really special in how it's really brewing and just really really becomes a special tournament of how it's really of how passionate those fans of love the game's really all about. And so yeah, it's always a great feeling to have all the upsets and the surprises and the top seeds and all that excitement around the vibe for the teams, the tournament, and the coaches, and hearing the coaches interviews and players interviews, the locker rooms, and all the different sites and tournaments and the Final Four just doesn't get any bigger than that. It just doesn't. That's what makes this tournament very special, and I think that this tournament has delivered yet again, and I think that there's always something that we can always cheer about.
Absolutely, yeah. This time of year is always just a really big one in terms of interest in sports, and we've got a great tournament this year. I think this year in particular, we've got some really interesting teams. I think we're going to see some really interesting upsets as well as we get into this next couple of rounds of March Madness for sure. So. Yeah, I think obviously we all like Duke to win the championship, which probably could be a bit of a red flag in terms of no pun intended with the flag, but in terms of who we think is going to win. But I mean, I think we're all pretty high on Duke for a reason. Obviously, we've talked about them a lot throughout this season, and we've mentioned perhaps the ACC, like Jackson mentioned the SEC having a record number of teams in this year's men's tournament, and we've mentioned maybe the ACC is not quite what it was in terms of big name teams, but at the same time, Duke is kind of the exception that proves the rule in that respect, is where they've been so dominant this year, and if they've able to get all their players back healthy, you know, Flag and Malik Brown and all of that, it's gonna be a massive advantage for them. So I think. I think they're definitely going to be the team, the national team that everyone keeps an eye on throughout this tournament, um, as well. And I think as we progress here, it'll be interesting to see what kind of fun matchups we get, and some of the fun, you know, schools and all that to see. So yeah, I personally I agree, Jack. I think it's going to be a really interesting tournament, and I think we're going to see some big upsets for sure. I think we're gonna, you know, I know that you picked the number one seeds all to make it, which in my opinion is a bit ludicrous, but you know that's neither here nor there. But I think we're going to see some higher seeds definitely make a run here. I think we're going to see sort of that 4, 5, 6, 7 seeds sneak in here in the Elite Eight and probably even the Final Four. So. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
I don't
And
think this year will be
yeah,
any exception to that. You know, we always see those kinds of higher seeds making a run, don't we, Jack?
we do. And one of those teams that I forgot to mention is Tom Izzo and Michigan State. They could be one of those
You can never count them out, can you?
top seven teams against the wrong. Tom Izzo, the longest tenured coach in college basketball history, behind only Coach K, who's no longer coaching on the team anymore. Now works at his office on campus. Is still is still very strong and still a very great coach, even after all these years later, where he's still coaching even much longer than Coach K, which is hard to believe. Mike Krzyzewski, really hard to believe, but he's still going strong and going at it, and better yet, his team is looking to make another run in this tournament.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. I think
I've got Michigan State playing Auburn in the Elite Eight.
Moo, that should be a fascinating matchup.
this could be a bit of a last call for some of these older coaches. Obviously, in today's men's basketball, we don't see sort of these legendary coaches, the likes of Coach K, Roy Williams. Um, but we do have a couple of the old guard around, and the likes of Rick Pitino with St. John's, who we've mentioned, and obviously Tom Izzo with Michigan State. So this could end up being a bit of a last dance for some of these older coaches as well that are looking to sort of squeeze in a one more tournament run in their illustrious coaching career. So that's another great storyline to keep an eye on as well. All right. I think we've
Right.
done quite a bit of tournament talk here on Good Guys Sports. I know I'm personally really excited to see how this tournament plays out, and we will certainly keep everyone updated on all the happenings and all the big storylines as we progress through the tournament. On next week's show, we'll have more updates and previews to go through as we get further and further into the tournament. You know, second round, Sweet 16, Elite Eight, as we're building up to the exciting Final Four in San Antonio. So certainly lots of great college basketball action to look forward to. So thank you to Mike Jackson and B.O. Blake Limberger for joining us on the March Madness special here on Good Guy Sports. And tune in for more college basketball breakdown and a lot more next week. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
See you
Thank
Bye
guys.
you
now.
guys.
Bye.